What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jeff Guy here, and in today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. We are doing an NFL mock draft for 2025 based on the sportsbook odds provided by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, if you take a look, there are different numbers on the screen. I will explain what they all mean, but essentially what we're going to do is say whatever the sportsbook decides is going to happen, and we'll play out the draft as if that were the case. This video should hopefully be a lot of fun for you guys, get a different look at the draft, and maybe provide you with some bets that you might like for the NFL draft based on your mock. So make sure you subscribe, like, comment, do all those things. Let me know that you like this video, and let's get into it now. So, pretty obvious. Cameron Ward is going to be the #1 overall pick. That is pretty much set in stone based on these betting odds. If you take a look, minus 10,000 to be the #1 overall pick, meaning you have to wager $10,000 to win 100. Very risky bet. I would not do it because there's always a chance it doesn't happen. However, the sportsbook is incredibly confident that Cameron Ward will be the #1 overall pick, and they're not giving you a very good return if that happens. It's very likely. We are going to put it into our mock draft, set it, and forget. At #2, the Cleveland Browns are currently projected to take Travis Hunter, cornerback out of Colorado. Obviously a two-way player, really, maybe the #1 player in this entire class. It's interesting to note, it's like, even if they trade this pick or something else, this market itself will be graded correct, even if it's not the Browns making the pick, right? So I just wanted to call that out really quickly. They are projected to take Travis Hunter. I think that's a fantastic choice for them. He pairs well with Denzel Ward or Jerry Jeudy, depending on which side of the ball he's on. And he's just going to be a really, really high impact player for them for probably many. At #3, Abdul Carter is projected to go to the Giants, another really strong player, probably one of the 3 to 4 blue chip prospects in this entire draft. That is a no-brainer, and it leaves my Patriots, unfortunately, with one of the better players in the draft, Will Campbell. They're projected minus 225 to take him here. Good player, an outlier given how short his arms are. However, fills a positional need for the Patriots. I think there probably are bigger needs, but that's what the sportsbook says is going to happen, and that's what we're putting into our mock draft. At #5, the Jaguars are projected to take Mason Graham out of Michigan. Makes a lot of sense based on their team needs. One bet I really think is interesting, and I think this market's wrong on, a lot of people are talking about Tyler Warren to the Jaguars given the departure of Evan Ingram. That's plus 1,800, meaning if you wager $100, you win 18, and obviously 19 comes back to you based on your original 100. It's a really, really good opportunity. And I think there are a lot of people who will consider Tyler Warren, including people in the front office in Jacksonville, as they try to get Trevor Lawrence some help. However, for this mock draft, we see Mason Graham. And then as the fantasy community rejoices, the the Las Vegas Raiders will now have a bell cow running back in Ashton Jeanty. One guy who will be in the passing game, be in the rushing game, will compete with Sincere McCormick and Dylan Laube and Zamir White and be the #1 guy in the entire league, potentially, in running back touches from his rookie season. Fantastic player, fantastic fit. Maybe not the best pick if you're being super economical with your draft resources. That being said, he's going to be an instant impact, and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. At #7, the New York Jets are projected to take Armand Membu, minus 115. Closest to even money we've gotten here, a $115 bet, pays out $215, nets you an additional 100. They are also in the conversation to take Tyler Warren, albeit at much worse odds than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's more likely he goes to the Jets than the Jags. But Membu's their pick. I think he's one of the better players in this draft. He has risen up the board pretty quickly as a result of his performance at Senior Day and his overall measurables and potential at the position. It's a no-brainer pick for the Jets. I think they're very happy with that. At #8, the Carolina Panthers are projected to take linebacker Jalen Walker out of Georgia. I think he's a good player. I've watched enough Georgia tape to know that he is a high impact guy, has sideline to sideline speed, and is a very good tackler, as well as has good pass coverage. He's just a versatile guy that's going to help this Panthers team succeed. And they just need good ball players, and Jalen Walker seems to be a good ball player. So now we kind of have to get creative, because this is where the picks end. We don't have a number 9 pick. So what we have to do is start to look at team needs and kind of just build out the rest of this board a little bit differently. And if we take a look at the NFC South, the New Orleans Saints are minus 170 to take a quarterback, which is likely to happen, right? And if we also take a look, and this is going to make a lot of people mad, Shedeur Sanders is minus 250 to be the second quarterback off the board. Combine those two things, that makes Shedeur Sanders the pick at number 9. And I think this conversation is starting to pick up some steam around NFL circles, specifically on the major networks. Shedeur Sanders to the Saints seems like a pretty sure thing, unless a team up here like the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, maybe the Raiders themselves, the Jets, or the Saints themselves take Shedeur. That seems like a very fun option. He is the best quarterback they've had. I don't consider Derek Carr or Jake Haener or Ian Book or Taysom Hill to be really good competition for him. So he'll come in, have a decent receiving core with Chris Olave and a couple other guys out there, and he will be the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I feel pretty confident in that one as well. At 10, this is where I'm going to get in a little bit of trouble, because if we take a look at the 2025 draft props and top 10, we have talked about every person with a minus on their name, except for Tyler Warren. And of course, we've talked about him in this video, but we haven't put him anywhere. And based on this, even though the Bears have bigger needs, they have a guy at the position in Cole Kmet, and they're probably projected different positions. They need a running back. Omarion Hampton's there. Offensive line, there's a ton of options. Defensive line, there's a ton of options. Tight ends, their fourth likeliest position they'll take. And given that Tyler Warren's projected to be a top 10 pick, we are going to give them Tyler Warren. Great player, really, really strong receiver, has good pass blocking. He will be Caleb Williams' best friend. As you think about the team, it's like DJ Moore, great. Rome Odunze, potentially great. Keenan Allen circling the drain. Cole Kmet, I think pedestrian plus at the position. Tyler Warren is a potential difference maker at tight end. It's not the worst pick, just, poor Bears for having 2 tight ends on the roster. The San Francisco 49ers are projected to take an offensive lineman at plus 150. The sportsbook doesn't really know where they're going to go here. Tons of different options. I think linebacker is one that's super interesting. Defensive line edge are also super interesting. But for this purposes, we're going to take the offensive lineman. And if you take a look at the offensive lineman selections, we're going to use the second offensive lineman selected here as kind of just a barometer for who we should be taking. Membu's gone. Will Campbell's gone. Kelvin Banks is next up at plus 600, projected to be the second overall guy. We're going to use that as the pick here, as Kelvin Banks probably goes slightly ahead of his ADP. He's predicted 20 in PFF. However, I don't think it's a terrible reach. He's coming out of college a little bit injured, but was one of the better players. If he had not been injured, would be easily talked about in this top 5 here. I think the 49ers are getting a great potential Trent Williams replacement as he is circling the drain of his NFL career. No offense, Trent. The Dallas Cowboys are plus 110 to take a wide receiver, plus 370 for cornerback, couple other spots there. The number 1 wide receiver, we haven't seen one yet because Travis Hunter counts as a cornerback, is Tetaroa McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver who would pair so well with CeeDee Lamb. Would be a very, very fun option there, as fantasy owners would rejoice with Dak Prescott having those 2 guys on the outside. Whew, scary. The Miami Dolphins are plus 140 to take an offensive lineman. I think cornerback is certainly in play for them. D-line, edge, safety, all different good options here, especially because they might be moving on from Jalen Ramsey. So I think corner could definitely be in play, especially with the players on the board. But offensive lineman is the projection here. And if we take a look at the guys available, just looking at my list, Josh Simmons is the next guy up based on the current draft grades. If we take a look at the draft specials, the offensive lineman props, Josh Simmons is projected to be the next guy. He is a fantastic player out of Ohio State. A lot to like about him on his tape. Again, not a talent evaluator. However, the Dolphins need to protect Tua, and this makes a lot of sense as a pick, given they're pretty set at a lot of other positions. I think their defensive secondary is the other one that they would probably address. I think Malachi Starks, it's early for him, but I'd love that. Will Johnson, good player, and Jahdae Barron's the other one. Now, the Colts, the Colts are supposed to take Tyler Warren. They are projected so well to take him, especially if he falls to 15 or pick 14, they're plus 100 to take a tight end. And based on the rules that we are arbitrarily following here, they have to take a tight end here. And if we take a look at tight ends real quick, first tight end selected, Tyler Warren, obviously. Number 2, Colston Loveland, plus 500. We also can take a look at the draft position and see Colston Loveland is projected under 18.5 minus 250. So this isn't actually crazy based on the sportsbook odds, right? They expect Colston Loveland to go before the 19th pick. And if we take a look at the draft, we're at 14, so we're 5 picks ahead of that. But the Bucks, Seahawks, Bengals are all in positions to take a tight end. Cardinals just paid Trey McBride. They do not need one. And the Falcons have Kyle Pitts, which would be hilarious if they took another tight end. Colts are absolutely in play for one, and I don't think that's a bad pick. I think they probably have bigger team needs, but like considering they're evaluating Anthony Richardson, they need to give him all the help they can get, and that comes in the form of Michigan's Colston Loveland. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are up next, and they have not taken a defensive lineman in like years. I think like Vic Beasley was the last one they took in the first round. They're minus 210 to take a defensive lineman or an edge here. If we take a look at the draft positions in the first round players, I think we're going to start pulling from this list simply because it's getting a little bit harder to look at the second player drafted market with so many guys. So we take a look at the potential options here for defensive lineman and edge. Jihad Campbell is a linebacker. So Shamar Stewart, based on the logic of, we're going to go by these picks, is the logical pick for them. And I don't hate that at all. He is someone like from a Madden perspective, I would be all over as he is like 6'5", 290 or something like that. Yeah, or 6'6", 290. Insane, super high athlete, potential game wrecker, although didn't have fantastic prospect or fantastic stats. He's projected to be a second round pick as of this, but he goes at 15 based on the sportsbook odds to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock next, and if you take a look at their potential pick, I already drafted it up here, defensive line edge is going to be theirs at plus 175. We take a look at the draft positions, and we can actually make a pretty good call here. As we're about to see this run on defensive ends and defensive linemen, Mikael Williams is projected over 15.5 at plus 100, meaning that he's probably actually going under 15.5. So based on that market right there, we would expect a team like the Colts or the Dolphins, potentially the Cowboys, to go after him. In this scenario, with Shamar Stewart being the guy we selected earlier, Mikael Williams is the next one up based on this, again, arbitrary logic we're following. So we are going to take Mikael Williams for the Arizona Cardinals, and I think this is a fantastic potential option. As Georgia defenders have done very well in the NFL recently. He'll be, I believe, the second one. Jalen Walker already went off the board. I think, fantastic option. Definitely something the Cardinals should be thinking about as they're facing a lot of really good offenses in the NFC West and the NFC. The Cincinnati Bengals are the next team to take a defensive lineman, and they're actually going to get Mike Green, who we just go, one spot up here. He is over under 17.5, slight juice to the under. So 17.5, we'll take him at 17, projected exactly there. That is exactly the right spot, as I never showed you guys, but Cincinnati Bengals minus 150 to take a defensive lineman or defensive edge. This pick makes all the sense in the world as they take Mike Green out of Marshall. That being said, you could make a case for Walter Nolan here. You can make a case for a lot of different guys, but the Bengals taking a defensive lineman is just, it's not a lock, but it seems to be a really, really safe and logical choice for them to do. Heading back to the NFC West really quickly, the Seahawks are minus 110 to take an offensive lineman. Best one available is Zabel, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, who I have not watched a lot of tape on, but has a 90 overall grade in 2024. 5 position lineman versatility, 6'6", 305. Lot to like about his measurables, and the Seahawks are going to scoop him up here as we take a look at the guys on the top first round board. He was somewhere, Gray Zabel, minus 1,000 to be a first round pick. He goes right here. The Bucks are going to get the next defensive lineman. We pull up their team board and see kind of what they're working with. They're a very, very good team, but definitely could use a player to take them over the edge. You take a look at defensive line edge plus 150. They could easily go linebacker. We're seeing Campbell start to do this, nosedive, right? But we're still going to follow as close as we can the odds. And based on this mock draft exercise, they need a defensive player. They're going to get a defensive player. They're going to get a run-stopping Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Now, we talk like Vita Vea is their current run stopper. He would be a fantastic to Vita Vea and probably compete with like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka immediately for a spot in a 3-4 or a 4-3 setting. So Derek Harmon will get on the field for the Bucs if they choose to take him at 19. If you're a fantasy football player, you're going to love this one. Bo Nix is going to get a running back here at plus 135. That running back will be Omarion Hampton, who is an absolute bully. Definitely a one-cut runner with a little bit of missed tackle ability. He is definitely like a zone runner, which is, I believe, the scheme the Broncos run. And he's going to give Bo Nix a running game that he just has not yet had in the NFL. I don't know if he's as good as Gene T, but he's right up there, and he makes for a solid selection for the Denver Broncos. So we've preloaded this one here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are projected to take a defensive lineman or an edge, and you think about the Steelers, they have a lot of team needs, and they could make some trades, notably George Pickens before the NFL draft or during the NFL draft. However, I think their pass rush is getting old. You think about Cam Hayward potentially on his way out, TJ Watt. It's definitely still has a lot left in the tank, but, is only one man. I think Ezirakiu, however you say this, very productive player in college, 766 snaps last season with 14 sacks and 26 quarterback hurries. Definitely produced in his, games in Boston College. Not the best school, obviously, even though, I went to BC High. It is what it is. Very good 3-4 pass rush defender. Probably a really, really good fit for Pittsburgh at number 22 or 21 in the NFL draft. At 22, the Chargers are also projected to take a defensive lineman or an edge player. And I'd love if they took Emeka Egbuka here. I think he would thrive with Justin Herbert. However, the Chargers are going to take a Michigan boy, and that's Kenneth Grant, and which makes a lot of sense for Jim Harbaugh. He is the next guy on our list. That to me screams like a really, really good selection, and I'll probably put this into my mock draft as well, provided he doesn't go earlier than this. I actually didn't even check. Do we have online here? Kenneth Grant does not have a position on here, so we're going to have to take a look and see if the one comes up. Maybe we hit like an over 19 or something like that. Kenneth Grant, the pick there. If you are an NFL draft nerd, you know that there are some players who have gone way, way too far based on who they are and what they're projected to be in the NFL. Think about some of these corners, Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, probably both way, way earlier drafted. I don't necessarily see linebacker here, but Jihad Campbell still on the board. Walter Nolan still on the board. Malachi Starks. There's a lot of good players who are going to start coming off here as we take a look at the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers are one of the better young teams in the NFL. They have a lot to like at every single position. They're projected to take a defensive lineman or edge. At this point, I don't think that makes all the sense in the world, just given how many other needs there are and how far these corners have fallen. So they're projected 165 to take a corner. And if we take a look at the corners who are available, the best one, based on the odds, to be the second quarterback selected is Will Johnson out of Michigan. We are going to see back-to-back Michigan boys go, 22 and 23. The Minnesota Vikings are up next, and they are projected to take a safety at the same rate as corner, right? So we could make our selection here. And based on the narrative that I want to play here, like we just took a corner, Jahdae Barron would make a lot of sense here. However, I love Nick Emanwari. I think he's a fantastic player. He's clearly projected to go at number 1 for safeties, even though Malachi Starks is right there. I don't think this is a bad selection at all. He gives them a potential Harrison Smith replacement. Even though they play kind of different positions, like his ball hawking ability at his size and speed is fantastic. I've watched a little bit of his film, and he is a beast. So I'm all about the Vikings taking him here. That's a really, really good selection. So I think this is a really stupid pick next up, but, we kind of have to do it. Tyler Booker is the next offensive lineman here at minus 600, given, Simmons and a bunch of other guys have gone already. but he's the guy here. Now, the Texans just got rid of Laramie Tunsil. They need to protect, what's his face, CJ Stroud. However, this is the guy based on this mock that they get. And he doesn't fill the need they have, but it is what it is. So they are going to get Tyler Booker, and we are going to move on. I think the Rams probably get like the best break here of anyone else in this draft. As you take a look, they are projected to take a cornerback. They are going to get Jahdae Barron out of Texas, who's like clearly the best player left on the board. 13.9 ADP on PFF, which is, not always the most accurate, but they're basically getting him at double his ADP, which is a fantastic value for them. Next up, we're going to speed through these last couple picks. The Ravens, who are, perennial contenders, projected to take defensive lineman edge at plus 100. Walter Nolan is a senior day riser. He probably should not be here, but we are going to get him gone here, which is fantastic. And the Lions are a team that doesn't have a ton of needs, but they could go for other things. You see, minus 200 to take a defensive lineman or an edge, which is really interesting considering a lot of those guys have gone. However, as we take a look, James Pierce is the best left in terms of potential first round value. As you take a look at the betting board, we're going to keep showing you this page because it is what it is. James Pierce is minus 145 to be a first round pick. We are going to take him here. Although Walter Nolan, Walter Nolan just went. Never mind. So James Pierce is going to be the pick for the Detroit Lions. There are apparently character concerns with him. However, Detroit is a culture magnet right now. And if there's anyone who can fix like immaturity or some off the field stuff, it's going to be Dan Campbell and his staff. So now's where we kind of just got to start fitting some guys in. We take a look at this board. We have a couple guys up here. Jihad Campbell, Matthew Golden are both multiple four figures to go in the first round, and they haven't gone yet. So we have to fit them in. And if I take a look at the remaining teams, the Washington Commanders are up next, and I don't think they necessarily need a wide receiver. They're projected to take a defensive lineman. Linebackers all the way here at plus 1,200. However, Jihad Campbell is one of the best players in this class, and we have to get him in the first round based on the odds. This is the logical spot for him, given that, they might need more of an edge rusher, given that he's like a coverage linebacker. However, this is the spot he's going to go in. Looks like a very, very fantastic player. Best is a Micah Sam in 4-3 schemes, potential all-pro. It's best player available situation, as there are no more defensive edge players projected to go in the first round. As we take a look, like Scourton's the next guy up. James Pierce already went, right? So that is the selection for the Washington Commanders. Next up, Bills are going to get best player available. You think about Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. That former elite safety secondary is no longer there. Malachi Starks is the logical choice for the Bills. That's their third selection based on the odds. However, no more defensive linemen or edges. And I don't think cornerback makes all the sense in the world based on the current guys. Azari Thomas, Trey Amos, Shiva Rebel, all fringe first round, second round guys. Malachi Starks is projected to go in the first round, so that's our selection. And then we got the Super Bowl contenders, and I think the Chiefs are going to be super happy with this one. They are going to take Josh Connerly out of Oregon. They desperately need an offensive lineman. That isn't really a controversial take. If you take a look at the first round guys, Josh Connerly minus 200 to go in the first round, so that makes a lot of sense there. And then in addition, the Chiefs are projected to take an offensive lineman at plus 100. So it makes all the sense in the world, fills a positional need, and that is our penultimate pick. As we take a look, there's one guy here who is projected to go in the first round that we have not gotten in there. Matthew Golden is minus 165 to be the second receiver drafted. We've only had one go so far. You take a look at the 2025 draft, the first round players. Matthew Golden is minus 2,000 to go in the first round. Out of respect for the draft and out of respect for the odds, we have not found a spot for him yet. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, have more needs than wide receiver, even though they're saying it with, they have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. If they went Matthew Golden, this draft would be nuts. So with Matthew Golden going to the Philadelphia Eagles, this completes our mock draft. And now I bet you're wondering, how do we think about bets for this one, right? And my favorite market to bet is the player draft matchups, who goes before who, right? And I've hit a couple of these in the past that are kind of juicy, and getting ahead of them is helpful. However, we take a look at some of these odds, maybe or maybe not be selections for you. Donovan Ezerakiu we had in the first round, minus 165 to go over Emeka Egbuka. I like that as a bet based on our current forecast of only 2 wide receivers going in the first round. Who will go first, Jalen Milroe or James Pierce? This is a fantastic question of, will someone bite on the potential upside of a James Pierce, given his off-the-field stuff? Or will someone take on Jalen Milroe, who is definitely more of a project, but at a much more valuable position? My money's on Pierce. I don't know if I would take that as a bet. Who will be drafted first, Jihad Campbell or Gray Zabel? If you take a look at our draft, Gray Zabel goes at 18 and Jihad Campbell goes at 29. I don't know if that's realistic, but Jihad Campbell at plus 135 seems like a very, very good bet, given that someone's probably going to jump at him at some point. Who will be drafted first, Josh Simmons or Walter Nolan? So offensive lineman, defensive lineman there. If you take a look at our draft, we have Josh Simmons down here at 13. Walter Nolan doesn't go till 27. So that might be a selection there. And then who will be drafted first, Michael Williams or Matthew Golden? Michael Williams is projected to be like a top, 15 guy. Where do we have him going? We have him at 16. There's a couple teams that could reach, I think 12 at the Tetairoa McMillan spot for the Cowboys could be a golden spot. But what do you think? Please let me know what you think about the entire draft, the mock we did, any selections you have, any mocks that you have. Want to hear from you. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.